will be recorded, and we will upload the recorded version of this session to the AEBG website by the end of the day today. As you are coming in, please post any questions you may have into the chat pod, or if you're having any technical difficulties, please post those into the chat pod. The PowerPoint presentation for today's webinar is available to download. It's under the Resources pod, and it's the NOVA Live Webinar PowerPoint presentation. Please be sure to download the presentation and take any notes that you see fit. If you are unable to hear me, please make sure that you press the sound icon up top if it's white. If it is white currently, press it and it will turn green, and that will provide you with audio. Use the computer or laptop for audio. That provides the best sound quality. If you are hearing an echo, please check to ensure you are not signed in more than once. If there is a number 2 next to your sign-in name, that means that you are signed in twice. You will need to sign out of Adobe Connect and sign back in, and then click Listen Only to be able to hear. If your computer is not working and you need to dial in, please use the telephone number listed below. It's 855-369-0450, and the passcode is provided so that you will be able to participate by listening only. If you would like to increase your screen size to full screen during any time during this presentation, you can do so by pressing the full screen icon up top. It's the outward facing arrows. This will provide a full screen to you, but note, if you select full screen, you will not be able to see or contribute to the chat pod. In order to get back to the chat pod, you will have to click the full screen icon up top. It will now be the inward facing arrows that will provide you to the normal screen, and you'll be able to see the chat pod, attendee list, important information, and resources. If you have any technical assistance needs or support requests, please contact AEBG TAP at aebg.org and select the support icon. You can email us at tap@aebg.org or give us a telephone call. Our telephone number is 888-TAP. Tab AEBG. Immediately following this webinar, an online evaluation will appear on your screen. Please be sure to fill out this webinar evaluation. It is our way to address your technical assistance needs, as well as get some feedback regarding the webinar and make improvements moving forward. So now I will turn it over to Neil Kelly, who will get us started with the PowerPoint, with the webinar today. Thank you.
Thanks, Veronica. Hopefully everybody can hear me. And if you are in need of technical assistance, we've noted that in the chat. And of course, if you couldn't hear me, you won't hear this message. But with that, we have quite a few people on today. I think we had 300 people signed up, which is a record. We'll see how many new we actually get to sign on. But I'm going to cover the first part, then Nicole will come in and do the middle part, and Ryan will finish up, and then we'll leave time for questions at the end. And just one big question out of the way: if you're new to NOVA, if you're a new member to AEBG, we do allow the consortia lead to help you, and they have access in NOVA. So if you're having trouble, or if you want them to put in your budget or things like that, they do have that capability. So don't worry that you're going to be left on your own. And Nicole and Ryan will cover a lot of that. I'm going to cover kind of the policy part, and then we'll take it from there and dive deep into the live demo. And so we will be sharing the screen today, and so if you are on the phone, you will not be able to see the screen sharing, and it is live, so we don't usually do this that many times, but we felt it was a need to go into NOVA and show the live demo and show you hands-on. So with that, I'm going to start. And if you're looking for the PowerPoint, it's on the bottom left-hand corner. Just click on that if you want to print it out or save it for another time. And I'm going to begin. So thank you. So here's our agenda. I kind of went over that. Live demo is the exciting part. I'm doing the boring part. So here's the current status of AEBG fiscal systems. And we had this come up today. Someone was trying to put their 15-16 funds into NOVA. and their data and accountability funds into NOVA. And so the 15-16 in data and accountability funding will stay in the old MIS web-based system. And you still need passwords for the two different fund sources. You'll have one password for the 15-16 funding. I think 90% of that has been spent. And so if you are one of the few consortia with that 10% left over that you need to file a report in January to close out, you will need your password. In fact, everyone will have to do a final and a closeout on their 15-16 consortia funding report, expense report. Some people might not have anything to report because they're all spent, so they would just certify and send that in and do the closeout as well. So others that do have extra funding would have to go through that process of reporting expenditures, and then February we do the closeout of expenses. Okay, and where's the PowerPoint, Sally? It's at the bottom left-hand corner under Resources. So take a look at that. And I'm going to move on to the next slide. So we have budget changes due for these two old fund sources, 15-16 and data and accountability. Those are due in the old system by December 20th. And then, of course, like I said, the 15-16 consortia expenses are due by the end of January. The midterm data and accountability expense report is due at the end of January. And then the closeout of consortia funds for 15-16 are due at the end of February 2018. We have posted these due dates on the website. We did put it in the newsletter, and we actually have, I think, the next 2 years' worth of due dates are listed. So, and we'll update that as we adjust some of these deadlines. But that's the most current version that we have. Okay, so moving right along, current status of NOVA. We launched it October 25th. We are currently only tracking 16-17 and 17-18 funding. And what we mean by that is the active funding. So when you submit a budget for the year, which would be July 1, 2017 to June 30th, 2018, you would budget for the carryover funds that you haven't spent that you're bringing into this year from 16-17, and in addition, the 17-18 new funding. And so those budgets are due by each member on December 15th of this year. And so you can have your consortia member or consortia lead help you with that. If you're a member that's having problems, they can assist you with that, or you can contact our help desk and they can troubleshoot that with you. The way to work is the consortia will have 30 days to review the member's budget and submit and certify. So the members submit on December 15th. The consortia has 30 days to look at it, see if it's all right with the plans that you had submitted back in August, the annual plan and that thing. And so then the consortia level certifies within 30 days by January 15th. Okay. So any questions about that? That's kind of where we're at. I'm going to go into some background of, and we've kind of talked about this, the active funding, carryover funds from 16-17 and new funds 17-18. So it's really one budget for the carryover and the new funding, and we're just going to look at it from a 12-month program year perspective. Your annual plans that were submitted in August will constitute your work plans, and that's what Ryan and Nicole will show you. So when you go in to put in your budget, you will also click on what strategies from your annual plan that you'll be working on with this funding. And so the work plans are a check off what consortia annual plan strategies you are working on. So it's just a checkbox. You don't have to type anything in. These are all from the annual plans that were approved in August for the beginning of the year. That's why we're focused on just the 12 months, and we're bringing in carryover as well as new funding, and that'll be your 12-month budget. That'll be your 12-month work plan. So it's all kind of lined up. So hopefully that makes sense. Please repeat 16-17 information as to budget development. So once again, your budget for this year will include your carryover that you haven't spent from 16-17 and your new funds from 17-18. That budget you develop will be based on your annual plan that you submitted to the state as a consortia in August of 2017. When you go into the system, you will have all the annual plan strategies that your consortia said they were going to work on. There might be 15 or 20. And you as a member will select the ones that you plan to work on and spend the AEBG funds. So there should be a connection between the work plan strategies and what you're reporting by object code on the budget side. So let's say you were going to run classes, that was your strategy, so we would expect to see some kind of instructional salaries and maybe some health benefits, maybe some supplies, those kind of things. So hopefully that answers your question. And that makes sense. So we're trying to connect the dots here. In the past, we've never connected these dots down to the member level. And so let's see. Moving on, why NOVA? We'll not use the portal once we're fully implemented with NOVA. We won't have to facilitate the member update process. In the old days, people would send us, oh, so-and-so left. Here's the new contact for this member. Here's their phone number. Here's their email address. Now members can go in and do their own updates of contact information. And you can do that in real time. Also, the consortia leads have more oversight and access to update the consortium webpage. They also have more access to budget revisions and approvals. So there's a lot of responsibility at the consortia lead level with NOVA. And it'll be the one-stop shop place to go for all things AEBG. The forms will be in there that you've submitted, the deliverables, the consortia level information, member information. It will have your financial information. We'll also down the road connect it to Launchboard. So you'll have your student data coming in from TOPS Pro Enterprise and the MIS system. It will allow us to track other programs. So if we're bringing in maybe WIOA data or CalWORKS data, it's set up down the road if we do start tracking other programs that information can be easily added. And of course gives us the ability for innovation down the road. So by tracking spending and student data and student outcomes, gives us a little more accountability to say, you got this money, here's how many students you served, here are your outcomes, and then your consortia and your members can look to say, oh yeah, this is what we plan to do, and this is following the plan, you're being an effective member, and it gives the consortia and its members a chance to evaluate how each other is doing. And I'll be covering that on Friday's webinar about consortia administrative oversight related to planning evaluation, and assessing of member requirements. And this kind of dovetails into the discussion today with NOVA. Okay, so let's see, moving on to the next slide. I think we have a question. Are member expenditure forms in NOVA also? So there won't be a member expenditure form, Benita. You will just type in your expenses directly into NOVA, and we're going to release the expenditure part probably a little bit later. Expenditures are not going to be due until probably the beginning of March 1st, and then we'll be able to give the consortia plenty of time to review those expenditures. So that's something we're just finished working on, and we'll release that as soon as NOVA is programmed to reflect those expenditure due dates as well as budget revisions. And that probably will be a whole nother webinar to go through that. Right now we're just focused on you getting in there, updating your member information, and putting in your budget and putting in your work plan, or checking the box for the work plan. Okay, so here are the phases, kind of what we just talked about. Phase 1 was moving all the documentation from AEBG tab. That's completed. Phase 2 is what we're in right now, getting 16-17 and 17-18 budget information and the current annual plan strategies checked off in your work plan. That's what will happen as of December 15th, and then the consortia level will approve that by January 15th. Then, just when I answered the question that I just answered, We'll get into the expenditure reporting, and that will happen probably in the next few weeks. Will come out maybe by the beginning of the year, of the structure of the expense reporting and budget changes and how that's going to work and the deadlines. So I wouldn't worry about that because you'll have plenty of time, probably by the beginning of March, for member expense reporting, and then consortia review will also be 30 days after that. And then after that, we'll look at phase 4, which is closeout reports in August, leveraging funding, maybe look at consortia level budgets. Those kind of things will all come out for August. We'll probably have that out in like May or June to note how to close out, how to report leveraged funds, how to show what your consortia budget was for the year, and that'll be in phase 4. And then phase 5 down the road, probably the next year, we'll look at connecting student outcomes to Launchboard, which TE and MIS will feed into. We'll have some kind of dashboard that will connect the student data to the financial data. So that's kind of the phases of NOVA. And let's see, since I'm going on to the next slide, okay, maybe we'll go back to this. And maybe I could, while Nicole's doing this, I can go back and answer questions. So replacing the portal, all historical and current plan documentation from the portal has been transferred into NOVA. Nicole will show you how to access that. Each member will have a password with access and privileges. Nicole will show you that today. Each consortia lead and certifying officer will have their own access, and Nicole and Ryan will show you that, as well as the data from NOVA. When we get on the new website, which will be coming at the end of January, February, we will load the NOVA data onto the new website. And that, as well as, I will show your CFAD, your 3-year plan, your annual plan, your governance, all the stuff that you saw in the portal will be available. And then, so budgeting for 16, 17, 17, 18, this is what you're kind of working on right now. As I said before, the budget will align with the work plan. This is 16, 17 carryover, as well as the 17, 18 new funding. Work plan is based on your annual plan strategies. Members will check off the strategies they plan to use during the calendar year. It's just one budget, one work plan. And all you really need to know is your carryover from 16-17, your new funding allocation for 17-18, and then the strategies that you plan to work on during that 12-month cycle, June 1st, 2017 to June 30th, 2018. And like I said, the revision process is being developed. We're almost good to go on that. Members will be able to go in and revise their budgets on a regular basis. I think we're looking at a certain percentage that members can do their own budget approval, and then if it's over a certain percent, then the consortia would have to go in and approve that. And there is a certification process at the member level, and there's a certification process at the consortia level. And will allow you to do adjustments to member allocations based on state approval. And that's part of that CFAD process. And then there'll also be administrative oversight by the consortia for budget approval, budget revisions, and allocation processing. And then expense reporting. And I'll get to your questions in a second. It will be by object code only, object of expenditure, so there's 1,000s through 7,000s plus your indirect. And once again, it will combine your 16-17 carryover and your 17-18 new funding to make one expenditure report. You'll need to know what your carryover funding would be, so that would be your allocation of 16-17 funds minus the expenses that you reported in July, and then what you had left over would be your carryover, and that would be the starting point for NOVA. Your carryover plus your new funding is what your budget is for the year. And that year is 12 months starting July 1 to June 30th of next year. Allocation of funds chart will track funds received by members. It will show you how much funding you have left during the year. And we're going to put some targets out there. That'll come out soon but we hope to incentivize the spending of the oldest money first, and so we get that spent down before you start on the new money. So let's see, and Ryan will show you those reports. Although we don't have any expenditure information, they'll show you kind of the budget reports. And here's the user's guide, and I'm going to pause there for a second because we're right at the 20-minute mark, and I'm just going to see if I can answer some questions here. So Tammy says, we'll enter in the budget. Will it include the data and accountability budget? No. Data and accountability will be in the old system. This is only 16-17 carryover from consortia funds and 17-18 new consortia funds. Can each member have multiple users within? Yes, Nicole will cover that, and she'll show you how you can add users to NOVA. So we do not have an expenditure report due on December 1st. No, you do not. You have a budget due on December 15th. Your expenditure report won't be due until later. Now, I just want to clarify, 15-16 and your data and accountability funding are on a separate track. They're in the old system. So if I'm talking about the old money, data and accountability and the 15-16 funds, budget changes for that are due December 15th, and then expense reports for those two fund sources are due by January 30th or 31st. I don't want to confuse you. Now on the NOVA system, we have a different track, and you can go back to the PowerPoint. I don't want to throw too many dates at you. Let's see, in NOVA, what is the difference between the roles and contact workers when we're adding? So Nicole will cover that. And I think, will there be a budget form in NOVA for each member? Or do we? No, there's no budget form. You just type directly into the system, and I think Ryan will be able to show you that today. How do we report the common costs expenditure in NOVA? So if you have operational costs or general costs, you will have to, I'm sure your district has a way of figuring out where operational costs, if you use a certain object of expenditure code, or if you spread it around, I would go back to your district accounting people and ask them what's the policy or the method that they use for doing operational costs. Now, if it's common costs in the consortia and one member is holding on to the funds that will be shared later, that member would have to show that budget initially, and then when those funds get dispersed based on an RFA or a mini grant or some kind of decision, then you would have to do an allocation adjustment later on that would show where that money went to, and that would be part of that budget revision process. And we can have multiple users within the agency, and I hope I answered everybody's questions. Nicole, if you want to come on, I'm going to look at, see if I missed anything. So, okay, I'm just going to answer a couple of left. So Francisco said, for clarification, the members input the original budget and update it once it's open. No, you put in your budget for the year, and you could do a budget revision throughout the year. So I don't know what you mean by original budget. For 16-17 carryover and 17-18 new funding, you would have to come up with your own budget. Now, if it's data and accountability funding, you'd have to go back to the work plan and enter in that budget in the old system, not into NOVA. So I don't know if that answers Francisco's question. And then Lucy said, so our current plan and CFAD should be in NOVA. Yes, it should. Should we access screens in order to enter our budget, Dave?
Okay, thanks, Neil. Hi, everyone. My name is Nicole Alexander, and I'm with the AEBG office. I have shared my screen, so hopefully you can now see the NOVA login page on your screen. So today I'm going to provide you with an overview of the AEBG NOVA system, as well as go over a few helpful tips. But before we get started, I just want to do a quick introduction to the system. The NOVA system was developed by Product Ops, who is a custom software development firm located in Santa Cruz, California. Product Ops has partnered with the Chancellor's Office over this past year to bring us this application. We started first by building it out for the Strong Workforce Program, and now we have launched it for AEBG. We launched the system on October 25th, and based on the number of emails, many of you have jumped on the system and already started using it, which is great, and that's exactly what we want to see. So let's get started. So here you'll see the login page. This is how you will access the NOVA system. Users should have received an email from NOVA with their login credentials when the system launched on October 25th. These users were identified from the information that existed in the AEBG portal and was then imported into NOVA. In some cases, these emails were inadvertently directed to individual spam or junk folders. So if you believe that you should have received an email with your NOVA login credentials, you want to try to check your spam and junk folders, but also the best thing to do is to first try the forgot password feature. And to do so, you would type in your email address under username. So the username is your email address. And then you would click on the forgot password link, which should then reset your password and send you an email with your login credentials, and hopefully that might fix the problem. If this doesn't work, please contact your consortia lead who can check if you even have access, and they can add you to the system if you don't. If you do have access but you're still not receiving the emails, then please contact us at the AEBG office because we might have to manually reset your account. But we do ask that you please try the forgot password link first. If you are a consortia lead that does not have access, please contact the AEBG office and we can help get you set up. Because we imported users that existed in the portal, and as you all know, the portal had limitations as far as the number of users you could have. When we launched this system, in some cases we didn't have the correct contact to give access levels, and now, so you can contact us and we can fix that for you, and now we can have multiple users at the consortia level and multiple users at the member level. And also at the member level, we imported the users based on the CFAD. So in many cases, that is the administrator at the member agency, but you also have some additional folks that need access to be able to input the data or input information. So we do understand that. So we will work with you to help get you access to make sure everybody who needs access has access. So before I log into the system, I want to go over the types of access levels. There are two types of access levels. There are users at the consortia level and users at the member level. Consortia primary contacts are the only users that can add and remove contacts for the consortia and for the member agencies. So basically, if you are a user at the consortia level, you do have editing rights at the consortia level and you have editing rights at the member level. In order to add and remove contacts, you have to be designated as a consortia primary contact. That is the only level that can add and remove users for the consortia. Member representatives are users at the member level. They are the only users that can add and remove contacts for their particular member agency. And at the member level, you have two types of contacts. You have member representatives and you have member contacts. Both types of users can edit and input information for the member agency. However, only member representatives can add and remove contacts for their particular member agency. As we've mentioned before, NOVA is designed to be an open system, and so as such, all NOVA users will have view access to everything in the system. However, editing privileges are limited to your level of access at the member and consortia level. So now I'm going to go ahead and log in. I've already inputted my email address and my password, so I will click on the login button. All right, so this is kind of the main home page or dashboard. Once you log in, the first thing you'll notice is that on the left-hand side of the screen, there's a blue navigation pane. This is how you'll navigate your way through the system and how you'll get to the AEBG section and also to your consortia page. So to do so, you'll click on Funds. This will now populate the various funding streams that are located in NOVA. So you'll want to scroll down to AEBG. You'll click on AEBG. And now we are at the main consortia dashboard. And so this is where you will see all of the consortia, all 71 consortia listed. I'll scroll all the way down so you can see everyone's listed here. You can use the search by consortia name or by funding channel. What we mean by is if you're a fiscal agent or if you're direct funded. Then you can also scroll down to find your consortia. So I will click here on Allen Hancock Community College Consortia. And so now I am in the consortia landing page. So this is the main page that for this consortia, and this is how you will access everything for this consortia. You'll notice again on the blue navigation pane located on the left-hand side of the screen is how you can navigate to the various pages associated with your consortia. And this is when you are in the consortia main page. So you can click on CFAD. This will access your consortia 1718 CFAD. You click on consortia plan summary. This is your consortia plan summary. This is also information that's pulled as you report, as the work plans and budgets are submitted. This will populate that information. And below that, you can click on member allocations, and this is where you'll find your member allocations. Okay, so I'm going to go back into the main consortia screen. You can also access information for the consortia on this main page. So you'll notice the first module has consortia information, which includes your consortia name, address, your logo, a quick summary of your funds, whether you're a fiscal agent or direct funded. When you scroll below the next module, it'll indicate who has access at the consortia level for your consortia. And in this case, Elaine Healy is the primary contact. Michael Black is the fiscal contact. In order to add or remove contacts for the consortia, this is the place where you need to navigate to. To remove contacts, you would simply click on the trash can icon located next to the individual that you need to remove. To add a contact, you will click on this Add Contact button. As I've mentioned before, only the primary contact will be able to see this button and have access to add and remove contacts. So to add a contact, you'll click on Add Contact. You'll find their name in the drop-down list. Now, you will only find their name in the drop-down list if they are already a NOVA user or if they've already created a profile for NOVA. So in many cases, when you're adding a user, they probably are new to the system and they don't already have an existing profile. So there's one step that you'll have to do first. You'll have to send them a link so that they can set up their profile. To access that link, once this window pops up to add a contact, you'll see some text that says can't find the contact you're looking for. This is a hyperlink. If you hover on it, you can click on it, which will pop up another window that'll give you instructions on how to invite a colleague to NOVA. It has some sample invitation text if you'd like to add to your email. But basically, there's a link here that all new users will need to access to create their profile. I'm just going to click on it now so that you can see. So you'll need to send anyone that you need to add to NOVA, you'll need to send them this link. This will take them to the Create Profile for AEBG user page. So they'll need to create a profile. The required fields here is the first and last name, email address. At this time, they'll want to select a password, and they'll also need to indicate what consortia they are associated with. They'll click Save. Once they've done this, they should notify you and let you know that they've completed this step. And once they've completed this step, you then should be able to find their name in the drop-down list so that you can add them as a contact. One thing I should mention is that in some cases there is a slight delay. So as I've been working with folks to add them to the system, sometimes it does take, 10, 20 minutes or so sometimes for the name to populate into the list. Sometimes you do need to log out and log back in. So just thought I'd mention that point. So when you have someone that has completed their profile and you need to add them as a user, you would then select their name from the drop-down window, drop-down list, and for the list that says select contact responsibility, you would select the type of responsibility that you are providing them with. And then you would click Save, and then their name would populate under the consortia contacts. Okay, so that's how you add and remove contacts at the consortia level. I'm going to scroll down a little bit more. The next module is your titled Documents. This is your document library or document repository, and this houses all of your consortia annual plans and CFADs from prior years and current years, and all of this information had previously existed in the portal and has now been imported into NOVA. Also in this library, you can add documents, and if you need to revise your CFAD, this is where you would add your revised CFAD. You would click on Add Document, select the document type. If you're uploading a revised CFAD, you want to make sure that you check the box for amendment before you upload the document so that we can maintain a history of the revisions. Okay, and then finally, at the bottom of the page, when you scroll down, is where you'll find your list of member agencies. This is how you will navigate to the member pages. So I'm going to access Allen Hancock Joint CCD, and this is how I will show you how you can add and remove members for this member agency, and also how you can access the work plan and budget for this member agency. So when you hover over the agency name, it'll show as a hyperlink, so you'll click on it. And so now we're in the landing page for Allen Hancock Joint CCD. This view displays all member information and contacts, and this is where you can add and remove member contacts by clicking on the Add Contact button on the left-hand side of the screen. And again, only those that are member representatives have the ability to add and remove contacts for the member agency. The other level of user is a member contact. They will have editing rights and they can enter information, but they will not be able to add and remove members for that member agency. Okay, and I'm just going to touch a little bit on how you would access the budget and work plan, and then I'm going to hand it off over to Ryan in just a few minutes. But in order to access the work plan and budget for your member agency, you would click on 1718 Member Plan, which this will now take you to the work plan and budget area for your member agency. And before I hand it off over to Ryan, just a few quick tips that I've learned as I've been working in the system and responding to some of the help desk requests that have been coming in. For an optimal experience navigating the NOVA system, you should try to use the Chrome browser. The Chrome browser is the most compatible browser with this system. Safari is the least compatible browser with NOVA, so if you can, please avoid using Safari. Also, if you're having problems accessing information for your consortia and you do have access and you're logged in, you'll want to check your profile settings to make sure that you're associated with the correct consortia. To do so, you'll find your name on the upper right-hand side of the screen. You should hover your mouse over it, and you should see a button that says Profile Settings. Click on Profile Settings. This will take you to your profile. This is also where you can update your password.
Nicole, this is Neil. We do have a question from Marisol. She couldn't see the documents that you were listing. Could you go back and show people how to access that? I appreciate it.
Okay. Oh, the document repository? Yes. So again, I'll take you all the way back. We're back here at the main page for the consortia listing. You'll find your consortia. This will now take you to the main page for your consortia. And it's on this page, if you scroll down, that you'll be able to see you should be able to see the document library. It's the third module down from the top. Did that answer the question?
Okay, Nicole, I think we've taken care of most of them, but Suzanne does have a question. I'm not seeing how, let's see, let me look at this question. She says, I'm not seeing how I can add the member contacts. When I click on our member agency, I just see a member agency info box containing nothing.
Okay, so when she clicks on the member agency name, she doesn't see the member agency contacts listed or an add contact button. There might be an issue. You might not have the appropriate access level. You might not be a member representative, so we'll have to check into that. Only the member representatives have the ability to add and remove contacts, and we'll see the add contact button. So if you're still having
Nicole, I'm
issues
going
or you're unable
to
to
see if there's any other questions. Let's see. So Suzanne's issue might be, I know she wasn't a consortia lead, but she's a member contact, so there might have been something with that. But like you said, just email AEBG TAP, and they'll get you connected with Nicole, and she will straighten that out. And let's see. Marisol said, I don't see the add documents and the contacts or any other options. So right. Marisol might be having different privileges. I don't know. Maybe could you show people how where they would add the documents, and if they were going to add contacts or update information, where they would go? If you have time to.
Yes. So in order to add documents, you'll go back to your landing page for your consortia, and the third module down, you'll see the document library or repository.
Okay, and then where would she review the member's budget so she can view and certify? If no members' budgets are in there, she probably has nothing to view, correct?
Correct, and Ryan is going to go through the budget and work plan submission, but if I can touch on that briefly. So if we wanted to review Allen Hancock Joint CCD's budget, you would scroll down to where the member agencies are listed. Click on the link that'll take you to the Allen Hancock Joint CCD. On the left-hand side of the screen is the blue navigation pane. At the bottom, you'll see a link for 2017-18 member plan. When you click on that, that'll populate the work plan and the budget and also provide you with a preview screen. So if you wanted to access their work plan, you would click on work plan. This takes you to what they've entered for work plan. I believe you would still see information even if they haven't submitted or entered anything. If you click on budget, this now takes you to their budget. And Ryan will go through this in more detail.
Okay, and Dr. Laura had a similar question. I think you covered that, Nicole, on the work plan. So we'll move on. I'll keep answering questions in the chat. And
okay. Okay, so I'm going to move on. I'm going to hand it over to Ryan, and give me just a second. Okay. Okay, now I'm going to take us back to the PowerPoint so that Ryan can now share his screen. Okay, I'm handing it over to Ryan. Thank you.
Ryan, make sure that you're not muted, please, on your microphone side. We see the microphone moving, but we don't hear you. I believe your microphone is muted on the laptop that you're using. There we go. Now we hear you.
Okay.
You're good.
Sorry about that. What did you miss? What was I saying to myself here? Thanks, Nicole, and thanks for the opportunity to present NOVA to you. Nicole covered a lot of items, and I'm going to focus on the budgeting and planning. That's probably the most important thing at this point because there is a December 15th deadline for the planning and budgeting, so that's what I'm going to focus this time on. My name is Ryan French. I'm the project manager for NOVA at Product Ops, which Nicole had mentioned earlier in her presentation. And so why don't we get started? I'm going to start at the top of the navigation flow just to kind of show it again because I did see some questions on how to get to certain things. So from funds, adult ed, that will reveal the consortia. This is the main dashboard that will list all of the consortia. I'm going to pick on Allen Hancock as well. I can expand that to see the members and click in. I can also go into that consortium, and the members are also a link. This is where I will go as a member to do what's required of me. When I click that, I get to the member agency page, information page, and below that I will reveal the 17-18 member plan. If I click on that, it will reveal the breadcrumbs that we call them that'll walk you through the process. So the first item is the work plan, and these are the AEBG objectives and the strategies that tie to those objectives. And here is where you'll identify which strategies your member will choose to address with their budget by clicking a box. One is required. You can choose as many or as few of these as you choose. I'm just going to pick a few random ones here. You'll see that on the left menu, I get a little visual indicator that I've done everything that I need to do on that tab and that I can progress. I'm able to progress whether I've done it or not. I just won't be able to submit my member plan until I have 2 green check marks here. So to go to the next item, I can simply click Budget, or I can click Next. And we'll be into the Budget tab. I get a little dialog box reminding me that it's important to put in my carryover from 16 and 17, which I will do in this box. So I want to calculate all of my carryover funds from 16-17. Of course, I want to make sure that the number that I'm going to input here is accurate because it's going to add to my total budget, which I will then build budget items out against that total budget. So I'm just going to add $100,000 And you'll see I have my current allocation, and then a total budget, a remaining amount, and a budgeted amount of 0 because I haven't created a budget just yet. And then as I scroll down, I have a budget card, we call them. I'm on the Allen Hancock Joint CCD, so that auto-populates. And then I have my expenditure type. This is a list of the object codes at the natural account level, and I also have an option for indirect costs. So I will choose instructional salaries. I'll put in number, and I can write a description. The description field here is optional. If I scroll up, you'll see my remaining amount for my total budget has been decremented by $100,000, and then I show a budget of $100,000. I can duplicate this budget item, I can delete this budget item, or I can create a new one. Save myself a little time, and I'm going to choose duplicate. Employee benefits. We'll give this one 200,000. And again, you'll see that I have a 463K remaining, and I've budgeted 300K. And then I continue to add as many or as few budget items are required to deplete my budget down to 0. So 463, 431. And you'll see I've depleted my total budget. I have budgeted 100% of the available amount. If I am good with everything, I would click Next. And that will take me to the review. So this is my final check before, as a member, I would submit it. I apologize with my permission levels. I have admin access, so you don't see the submit button, but member agencies would see a submit button, provided you have 2 green checkboxes there. I can review my program, my plan, consolidated budget. If I want to share this with somebody, I can click the Share PDF, type in an email address, and I'll get an email with a PDF of this proposal. So if one member is entering this and wants to share it with another member or somebody at the consortium, you can share this with whoever you would like through that Share PDF feature, which is pretty cool. Okay, and really that is it. So if I have my 2 green checkboxes, I've completed the work plan, which would mean checking at least one strategy to address with my budget. I complete my budget to deplete the entire budget amount that I have to spend. I would come to the preview, and as a member agency, I would see a button here that says Submit. Once I click Submit, that will advance that plan up to the lead consortium, the person at the agency that will then certify the plan, review it. If there's anything that needs to happen, if an error has been discovered, or if there's a dialogue that takes place and something needs to be changed, the plan can be unsubmitted, which would take it to the beginning of the approval process. The edits can be made by the member agency, resubmitted to the consortium, and then certified. So we've made a...
So Ryan, do you have time for some questions?
I do. I have. Let me get back to the screen here. Oh. Sorry, Veronica. I did exactly what I wasn't supposed to do and bring us back. Thanks. Questions, Neil?
I think you showed everybody how they would review, if I'm at the consortia level, and how I would review some member's budget that was submitted so the consortia could certify and submit. Is that a pretty easy process to do once that's done at the member level? So if I'm a consortia designated person to do that, what would be the steps that I would have to take?
Once the member agency has submitted the plan.
Great. And then if people aren't seeing what we're seeing, they can just contact the help desk through AEBG TAP, and we'll troubleshoot whatever problem they're having if they're not getting member access or not seeing certain screens that we showed today. That's just minor troubleshooting that we can take care of, correct?
So we've been tag teaming the customer support. In addition, I just dropped a link into the chat. We've been starting to create short YouTube videos for NOVA around different functionality. So I know that this is being recorded. There's other resources available, but there are also videos in that link that I just shared where you can go view some of the process in NOVA.
Yeah, and there seems to be a lot of questions on this, but it's not really a technical thing. It's kind of a policy thing. So for member certification, we do recommend when you're putting in your budget and your expenses that you do have someone with some fiscal background, whether it's at CBO or CFO or somebody in accounting like you did in the old system, do that certification or submission. Now at the consortia level, that certification is really done with administrative oversight. And I'm going to do a webinar on Friday that will cover that administrative oversight. And really that administrative oversight is not looking at purchase orders and expenses. It's looking at what was the plan that was submitted, what was the work plan that you submitted in the system, does the plan, annual plan, and the work plan that the member has submitted match up with how the member is spending funds. Now you can do that all in NOVA. You don't have to look at individual documentation, but if there's a budget revision going on that they're moving all their money from instructional salaries to equipment or capital outlay, and there's nothing in that strategy or work plan that says anything about capital outlay, that would cause the consortia lead or whoever has that responsibility to question that with the member. So that's why we don't want to have at the consortia level someone strictly bean counter-like fiscal. It'll be up to the consortia members to decide who's going to take on that administrative oversight function. I mean, you do get that up to 5%, and so you'll have to figure out, is that the consortia lead? Do you want to bring in a fiscal person? I mean, it's really a combination of fiscal and planning, and you have to evaluate and assess each member to see, are they meeting the requirements? Are they following the plan? Are they doing what they said they're going to do? Are they making a difference based on what we agreed upon for this year's funding and our focus? So it's a little different at the consortia level. Now at the member level, yeah, you're going to have to need someone with some fiscal background because those expenses are being entered by the member. So I just wanted to clarify that. And we'll talk more about that on Friday. And let's see what else. Oh, so Benita asked, for Ryan, if we could change the verbiage, it says, I guess, seamless transitions is spelled incorrectly. So if we could just modify that, Ryan, in the system, seamless is with an A rather than two E's, I believe.
I also pointed that, and man, this is the education space, right? You can't make errors like that.
Right. Okay, and then Nicole Bill is having problems adding some names, but I'm sure he'll contact you offline on that. And then let's see what else here we have. Men Lee was asking, she didn't see a work plan from one of her member districts. Is that because they don't have access or they haven't entered it? What would be the reason, Ryan, if you clicked on a member and you didn't see a work plan, what could be the results of that? Oh, okay. Thank you. Aha. Great. Okay, and then someone asked, Carrie asked, is it one strategy per objective that is required? It's actually, it's up to the member to decide. Let's say you have 20 strategies in the various objectives. They're scattered all over the place. You don't have to pick one per objective. You might be working in one particular objective and you might choose 2 of the strategies, or you might just be working in 2 of the objectives and pick maybe 2 or 3 strategies. So it's not required to have one strategy, one objective. It's up to that member to decide what the role is on the planning for that year. And Ryan, the system would allow them to click less than one strategy per objective, right? Is there if they don't click any strategies, would that default?
The absolute minimum for that field is to check one strategy. So not one within each objective, but just one strategy.
Okay. Okay. And then Sherry asks, what if a member checks a box and won't do everything that is listed under that strategy? So, I mean, that's up to the consortia and its members to discuss. At the state and at the NOVA level, we're not going to be policing that. That will really be a consortia member discussion. And so that member would have to explain what exactly they're going to do with that strategy, and that should, all the members should be aware of that, and then there should be consensus that that's okay. So hopefully that makes sense. And then Kathy asked if there is a revision for past financials entered, i.e. more of the funding spent in the prior period than was reported, can I adjust that in the carryover? So with that circumstance, I would contact AEBG TAP and they will connect you with Nicole, and we can go into the old system and adjust that carryover. We won't be adjusting that in NOVA, so we want you to do that in the old system, Kathy, so the carryover is actual and correct, and so Nicole can work through you on adjusting that carryover and making adjustments in the old system so it's accurate. Okay, and then Robert says, is it optional to put a description for budget item? And Ryan, I believe we left that optional. You can do that if you want to share more information with your members, or you don't have to do that. Is that correct, Brian? Okay. So Robert, that's your choice. Maybe your consortia decides to put a little bit more descriptor in the object code, and you can feel free to use that field. So it's really up to your consortia. Okay, Joanna says, I'm with South Bay Consortia, new to the position. Who do I contact for access to the old system? And what is the name of the old system? And when is that information due? So the old system is the Chancellor's Office. I guess it's SB70. It's a MIS WebEx system. And if you contact the AEBG TAP email from our website, we can share with you the passwords of the prior consortia lead, and we can give you access to that. And the due dates for this, so budget revisions for the data and accountability funds and the old 15-16 funds are due December 20th. I was corrected by Martha. It is December 20th. And then the expense report, the final expense report for the 15-16 consortia funds is due January 31st. The midterm expense report for data and accountability funding in the old system is also due January 31st. And so Joanna will get you set up. Okay, then Thomas asks, when I click on 17-18 member page, it doesn't show work plan and budget.
I'm not exactly.
So Ryan, what would be the cause of that?
Permissions issue, likely a permissions issue. So
okay.
I believe in this instance, Neil, it's because...
Okay, and then Cherish has a specific question for Ryan. Once a member submits their portion, will AEBG lead get an email that it's been completed? So how will you know when a member has completed their
Yeah, there
budget
is a trigger
or
email
expense
that is
report?
sent out to consortium contacts.
Okay, and Pam said, no one received the PDF I sent through the shared PDF feature. And she says, help, how does that work?
Well, that would be news to me, but I'll certainly test it and check. And if there is any issue with the share PDF button, I'll make sure that we get that fixed. But sometimes they end up in junk folders or spam folders, so I would check that. But if that's the case, I'll test it when we're out of this.
Okay. So Laura, all right, thanks Ryan. So Laura asks, what's the best source for getting the figure for carryover? So what you would have to do, Laura, is go into the old system, look at the July report that was filed, and that would be July report 4, and you would look at the consortia total expenses reported, and then the balance, and that would be your carryover. Now that carryover should be reflected in all your members. So what's reported in the old system is a consortia level expense report. So you should have backup documentation that shows, okay, I had $10 million to spend in 15-16. As of report 4, I spent $8 million. I have $2 million left over, and here's where that $2 million is spread out among existing members. So you should have all that documentation. It's an audit trail, and if your totals don't match what's in the MIS web system, in the old system, I would not use that carryover until you fix it, because then there's no audit trail, and we can't go back to say, oh, this is what you carried in, here's the system that was in, here's the documentation of all that 15-16 money. So I would check with your consortia lead, Laura, and make sure that that is the accurate amount that was reported in the old system for 15-16 report 4, and then that the carryover that's reflected there matches what you're bringing into NOVA. So there's an audit trail. Let's see, what level access can certify a budget?
Yeah,
That's from the event.
Lead contact would be the person that certifies the budget.
That's for Ryan or...
Correct.
For the final submission, right, Ryan? So at the member level, is there a submission or certify button? So if I'm a member and I want to submit my budget to the consortia,
so member
what does it say? Does it say certify, submit? What's the button that I would click on?
There will be a submit button. If the work plan or budget is incomplete, it will be grayed out. Once the work plan and budget are complete, it will become an active button. The member agency would click the submit. It would go into a submitted status from draft status. It would trigger an email to the consortium, and when the consortium logs in, that they will see that that member agency's plan has been submitted, and they would have the ability to certify. So at the member agency, they see a button that says submit. At the consortium level, there would be the button would say certify.
So we would recommend at the state that at the member level, when you're submitting the expenses and the budgets, that you do have some kind of fiscal officer being the certifier, because you want to confirm that those financial documentation or data that you're entering is accurate. At the consortia level, that would be up to the members to decide how you're going to provide that admin oversight. And like I said, I'm going to cover that on Friday. But the admin oversight is more than just fiscal. It's planning and programming, and to look at the overall annual plan, 3-year plan, as it matches to what they're spending. So it's a combination of both. That's why I would advise at the consortia level, you have members discuss along with the consortia lead on how that certification to the state is going to work when everybody submits their budget. But at the member level, it really should be someone with an accounting or financial background. And then Jody asks, confirming leads must certify budgets in NOVA by January 15. Yeah, just NOVA. So not to be confused with the data and accountability and the 15-16 funding. And then Bronca is sharing some information with Sherry. And then Susie says, does our CBO still certify the budget? Like I said, that would be recommended at the member level. At the consortia level, I think you need to discuss it. Is it true that our data and accountability funds are showing up as unspent 15-16? So Lucy, we have not filed any expense reports for data and accountability funds yet. The first expense report in the old system for data and accountability will be this January. So this will be the first report, will be January 31st. It'll be due for data and accountability funds, and then the final report will be due January 31st of 2019. So hopefully that makes sense. And Maricel says, can you show how you give the certifying person all access to view and edit documents? Ryan, could you, so Ryan, is that the YouTube video that you posted for Maricel? Can you show how you give the certifying person all access to view and edit documents?
Yeah, go ahead, Nicole. That is correct. Yeah.
Okay, and then Teresa asks, what's Nicole's number? Well, we prefer that you email AEBG TAP so we can track that. And so Nicole wants to, get to bed at a certain hour, and she needs to do some personal things, so we don't want you contacting her at home. We prefer you to go through AEBG TAP. Right, Nicole? I know you would give out your home number because you're so diligent, but we want you to go through AEBG TAP. Okay, and then Emma Diaz, does a final certification require the voting membership approval? So it's really up to the consortia when you certify to the state what process you use for your administrative oversight and approving the budget. I mean, I'm going to go over this on Friday, but there really has to be an agreed upon member process of how you're going to provide oversight of assessing if members are following requirements and if members are following the plan, and evaluation of all the stuff that you've put into the plan, are they following that? So whether that means I don't know. I mean, it would be up to you to what that process, I don't know if a voting process would work. It would be more like a audit process or a review process or some kind of an evaluation process. I don't think having votes on that would be effective. I think more of an evaluation or assessment process would be more beneficial. So David asks, would you add the full budget amount even if you're planning to use in the following year? So David, it's one budget, 1 year. You'll do another budget next year. And so how this works is we want to put all the money that's active into this year's budget. So if you don't spend it all this year, then it carries over to the next year, but next year is a new work plan and a new budget. So every year you will be carrying money over, possibly, and you will be developing an annual plan and a work plan and a budget based on that money that will be earmarked active for the next 12 months. So there is no like, oh, I got $1 million, but we think we're only going to spend $500,000, so our budget will only be $500,000. Nope. We want $1 million budget because you have $1 million of active funds. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. That's the whole reason why we're going to NOVA. And then a question, is there a save button in case entering the budget is interrupted for any reason? So Nicole or Ryan on that one.
So if something does happen, you're mid-budget, you put a ton of time of energy into this, and you lose an internet connection or power or something, everything would be saved, likely with the exception of the cell that you're in when that event takes place. So no expenditures at this
Okay,
point.
follow-up question is, and I know you covered this, how do they enter expenditures?
Specs to develop that. So we are developing the fiscal reporting, which we would launch that early 2018.
Right. So your expenses really aren't going to be due until probably the end of February. So you don't have to worry about those right now. And the consortia approval of those expenditures doesn't have to happen until the end of March. So we'll probably have another webinar to cover that once we get it set up. So bear with us as we design the NOVA to reflect expenditures and budget revisions. Okay, so MR says, how is oversight different from certification? So if we're talking about fiscal certification, that would be a review of the expenditures, the purchase orders, timesheets, all the expenses you're certifying. If you're providing oversight, that does not include a review of expenses like looking at timesheets and purchase orders and contracts and stuff like that. That looks at, so once the member submits it, and that CBO or CFO gives that to the consortia, then the consortia looks at the expenditure, looks at the work plan, and says, okay, is this member following the requirements? Is this member following the plan that we agreed upon in August? Is this member following the work plan that they submitted? And so it's an evaluation and an assessment of member effectiveness. So it's not an evaluation and assessment of the dollars that they spent that's certified by the CFO or CBO at the member level. That would be the difference. Okay. And then we have,
and we are tracking the analytics as far as the
do unspent reallocated 1670 funds get combined with 1617 carryover field in NOVA? So you would have to put that in yourself. Let's see, I think I blew that. I lost it. Okay, sorry about that. I just clicked on the wrong thing. All right, we have a lot of questions here. Sorry. Okay, so I don't know. Help me out here, somebody. I thought I had the question. Okay, we'll go on. There's so many questions in the chat, I've lost track. So I'm going to go to Christina. If we share the budget after input, does it send a copy of the budget to the person we are sharing it with? So how does that work, Ryan or Nicole? Of share, I'm not sure if I understand sharing the budget.
On that preview page, you would need to go to the share PDF, and the budget would be included in that share PDF. It doesn't get sent out automatically, including the PDF to consortium folks or anybody else. I don't know if that answers the question, but to include the budget to somebody, use the share PDF function and it will be included.
Great, thanks Ryan. And then Paige has a good question. Well, they're all good questions, but at the member level, how will these districts fund a person to do all this work? So, Paige, you have to have a discussion among all your members to say, hey, now we have to provide this administrative oversight. We have to certify this information in NOVA, among other things at the consortia level. And so you have to have a discussion among members, who's going to pay for that, how is it going to be paid for, and then, you know, how will that money flow? Will it go into a pot, or will one member take care of these expenses and another member takes care of these consortium-related expenses.
So,
So somehow your membership is going to have to come together and figure out how to build that consortia budget and who's going to pay for what. And so there should be some discussion about that. How much is that going to cost? Who's going to do that? And then who's going to cover those costs? And so that's a discussion you really need to have at the consortia level because the members need to decide that. So Christina says, if we share the budget after, oh, okay, that's a question we already did. Sorry. Paige says, then they will have to work it into their work plan and budget. Correct. So there's no set aside for consortia level budget. It's really all coming out of the members' budget. Consortia is not a legal entity, but member districts are legal entities. So all those budgets and expenditures do come from members. It's just the responsibility, maybe one member pays for the consortia level stuff, or maybe 3 members cover different aspects of that consortia level. But someone has to do it. There's no magic consortia level entity that all of a sudden gets all this money. It all comes from the members. So your members do have to have that discussion. Let's see what else here. Bill. Oh, so Christina. Oh, Tehama spelled wrong. Ryan, we have another spelling issue. Okay. Okay, so Melissa says, do unspent real, okay, I think I answered that one before it all goes in. Okay, Menley, Nicole's working on that. And Tehama, Ryan is aware of that. So Christina asked, does the shared document budget print out as a PDF when you do print that out? And Ryan said yes, sorry. Bill asked, can I have my district accounting supervisor added with the ability to add our budget information? And I think Ryan or Nicole, you can add whoever you want. It's just up to the membership to decide if that's appropriate, correct? Okay, and then we listed the contact information. And then from Riverbank, if we are incorporating the carryover funds into 17-18, are we still required to spend down 16-17 carryover funds by December 2017? So the magic of NOVA is once you combine the carryover from 16-17 and the 17-18 new funding, we will spend down the oldest money first because it's in a combined budget. So you don't have to worry about spending it down. It will be reflected. Now, what will happen is when you see the expenditures targets, you will be required in the first quarter or the second quarter to spend a certain percentage. And I think what we're going with is first quarter 15%, second quarter 30%, third quarter 45%, and fourth quarter 60%. And so you would have to meet those targets. And so that definitely will spend down any carryover. So hopefully, and we'll come out with that in a little bit. We're just finishing working on that. So Prue says, if we have spent all 15-16 funds and reported all those funds, do you still have to do a final report? So for 15-16, yes, you do have to do a final report in the old Chancellor's Office MIS system, but that's all you have to do is just submit what you submitted the last time, the same numbers, and then you have to do a closeout, and then that is done with those 15-16 funds. So unfortunately, you do have to submit that. Who gets the auto email if the deadline was missed? That's from Jonathan. So Nicole, so is there an auto reply once the deadline is passed? So like after 12:15, if someone hasn't submitted a budget, will there be an email going out to say, hey, you missed your budget?
We have not.
Okay.
Yeah.
But we will be referring anybody that misses deadlines over to AEBG TAP for targeted technical assistance. So please keep that in mind. We will assist you, but we will put you in targeted technical assistance if you continue to meet deadlines. Which leads to, if you continue to miss deadlines and targeted technical assistance does not work, then we will set you up for member reduction of funding, and that's in the legislation. And since we have AEBG TAP this year coming on board, we'll be able to provide all that technical assistance that hopefully you won't get into being an ineffective member that will get you back on track. But in the event that you are an effective member and reasonable intervention through targeted technical assistance doesn't work, we can reduce your funds, and your consortia can reduce the member fund and reallocate it to other members that are effective. So that's in the legislation. So Martha said, I understand that 15-16 funds. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to mention a quick workaround. While no email goes out after the 15th, if there's a member agency's plan is still in draft mode, but there is a quick way to just check that. If you go to your consortium and from the main consortium dashboard, there's a little arrow. If you click that arrow, it expands it to reveal all of the members, and it'll show the status of their plans. So you can go to your consortium, expand it, and you can see that they all say draft, 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 or draft, certified, certified, and you can easily identify after the 15th who has not completed what they need to complete.
Great. Thank you, Ryan. And then Martha says, I understand that 15-16 funds were not being reported in NOVA. As a fiscal agent, we use the MIS system. Yes. Are members now expected to report 15-16 in NOVA? No. So we're still using the old MIS system for 15-16 funds. You will still report that at the consortia level, and hopefully those have been all spent. We only have 10% of that fund from July reported as not spent, and so that shouldn't be a big issue. If you do have some remaining funds, you will go into the old system and report at the consortia level. Members will not have to report in the old system, nor will be using NOVA to track 15-16 funds. Okay, and then Charis asked, this might be for Ryan or Nicole, can a member make changes to the amount that's listed under their agency? And I think that happens at the consortia level, correct?
Yes, that's correct. So member representatives can manage contacts for their member agency, and consortia primary contacts can manage contacts for their consortia and also for all of their member agencies.
Okay, thank you. With 3 minutes left, I'm going to try to get to these last few questions. Is there a timeline on the AEBG website? Yes, we had one in the newsletter this month. We're going to be reposting that, but it has all the deadlines for the next 2 years, and I'll update that with the expense reporting deadlines as well as budget revisions, and so we'll get that out there. I think it's currently on there, but we'll be updating it in the next week or two. And then there's a lot of Nicole love going on here about Nicole doing such a great job. So Nicole, you're doing fantastic. You've passed me by, Nicole. So Wayne asks, with consortia carryover budgets from 16-17, what is the process for redistributing funds within the consortia? So Wayne, you would have to discuss that among members and agree upon how you're reallocating funds, and all members would have to agree, and then you would go into NOVA and make those changes, and Nicole can work with you on that if you are doing a reallocation. Are the YouTube links posted on the AEBG website? And that's from Laura. I don't think they are now, but Veronica or Nicole, could we get those posted on the website somehow? I don't know how we would do it.
They're not on the website. Sorry, Nicole.
The YouTube.
I don't think we've built that functionality just yet.
Okay, and Veronica did say she will post them. Great. So it'll be posted under where the recorded webinar and the PowerPoint will be from today, and so she'll post the YouTube, so you only have to go one place to look at that. So Paige asked, and this might be my last question here that I cover, there are school members that have their carryover on their site. The consortia paid out to them. Do we still put their amount in NOVA carryover as it is our consortia budget? So any 16-17 carryover, it just depends, Paige, if they're members and they're going to be filling out a member budget, they do need to show that 16-17 carryover. If these are grantees under a subcontract from the consortia or another member, then you wouldn't have to show a separate budget, because if they're a sub-grantee, they're not technically getting a member direct allocation. So I think you need to probably talk to Nicole about that. I'm not sure if these are members or not. If they are members, they do need to do a budget. They do need to show us their carryover. It does need to match with what you reported in July in the old MIS system for 16-17, so there is an audit trail. Okay, and how are the member allocation amounts changed? Is that the consortia lead? Yes, Gretchen, Nicole covered that. We can look at that. Or you can go in and change that with the consortia lead and membership discussion. And did you say expenditure targets are 15, 30, 45, 60 for Q1 to 4? That's what currently is drafted. We'll see. And David didn't like that. Well, David, we've got to give the legislature something to hang their hat on. They didn't like it that we weren't spending the money fast enough. Related to AABG Summit in January, when will we get the Summit pins from Cherish? I think they're going out today. Where can you show us? AABG TAP will be sending those out. No worries. And how do I get on the newsletter distribution list? Go on the website and click on subscribe. I think Veronica or somebody else can show you, send you the link to that. Let's see. And Melinda's going to set up a YouTube channel. When we get our pins, yeah, coming out today. And then Veronica posted the due dates. David's signing off, and I think we're good. No, there are no mini-grant allocations to school district members on our CFAD. So Paige, then they would all have to report a budget, and they would all have to report any 16-17 carryover that you have validated on your budget records. Oh, so Melinda says tomorrow. Pins will be out tomorrow. Sorry. Okay, well, thank you, everybody. I'd like to thank Veronica and all the technical assistants from AABG TAP behind the scenes today. And then Ryan from Product Ops and Nicole from AEBG. Thank you so much for walking everybody through today. And we'll look forward to seeing some of you or hearing some of you on the webinar Friday to talk about administrative oversight, which connects with this NOVA live demo. And so we'll also be having NOVA at the summit. And so we look forward to either having you participate this month or seeing you at the summit next month. Thanks again. And Veronica, did you have some last minute instructions?
Yes. Once this webinar closes,
I'm just trying to keep up with Neil.
Evaluation form. Please be sure to fill out that evaluation form. It's our way of addressing your technical assistance needs as well as making improvements for future webinars. So please be sure to fill out the online evaluation. Thank you everyone so much. The recorded webinar as well as the links to the different things we discussed and the PowerPoint presentation will be posted on the AEBG website later on today. So please be sure to check the archive webinar section of the AEBG website for this particular webinar and past webinars. Thank you and have a great day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.